Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are all doing fantastic. We're here with a bit of a different one today, but not really. I'm sure you guys would have seen this plenty of times before on other channels, but I just thought I'd talk about round 7 today. My thoughts, key takeaways, that sort of thing. Not super in depth. We're not going to be making this a hugely long video. Hopefully it's just going to be, around the 10-minute mark. So I won't ramble on for too much longer, but don't expect this to be a thing every single week. This was just sort of what I felt like doing this week. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and all that down below in the comments. Anything you'd like to say, I want to hear it. And yeah, if you are new, make sure to subscribe, drop a like and all that. But yeah, let's jump straight into it. All right, so starting off on the Friday night, this was actually a ripper game, to be honest. And I think like most of us would have expected St Kilda to get up. That was not the case for this game. I think the real takeaway here is Port Adelaide. I think they've proven themselves to be one level above the rest this year. And I think we'll find they're probably going to be more than just, a side that makes up the numbers for the top 8 this year. The way it's looking, we know St Kilda have been such a good team this year and are respected for that reason, for what they've been able to do. But Port Adelaide on that Friday night, Ken Hinkley's side was very, very good. I think it was St Kilda were actually in front for, the first 2 and a bit quarters, I believe. Then after halftime, Port Adelaide just came out and just stopped St Kilda from doing their thing. Didn't really get any great entries for St Kilda, and well, Port Adelaide's defense was very good for most of the night. And in fact, I think St Kilda actually conceded their highest score for the season, that being 83 points. Going down by 7, this was a tip that I obviously got wrong, and I think most people would have as well. But one of the stories out of this game for Port Adelaide was Jason Horne-Francis was very, very good. Travis Boak had a huge game as well, especially in that last quarter. So yeah, this was definitely changing up the results nonetheless, and a bit of an unexpected one here. I think Port Adelaide have gone 6 games in a row against St Kilda, and I don't think they've lost. I think they're also on a 9 streak at Marvel Stadium. It was something crazy like that. So they play very, very good at Marvel, the Docklands. So yeah, that's an interesting one there, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see how Port Adelaide handle themselves for the rest of the season. All right, so quickly touching on the next game here that we've seen on the Saturday afternoon, the first game of the Saturday afternoon. I'm not going to talk about it for too long, but bottom line is Freo look absolutely lost. I mean, Brisbane just dominated this whole game from the get-go. I don't think Freo even led this game for a single second. What has gone wrong with Freo? I mean, realistically, they were a final side last year. Yes, they're one of the younger sides, but they were able to do it last year. So what has gone so wrong this year? I don't really know. I think they're one of the slowest ball movement sides in the comp at the moment, going from their D50 to their forward 50. But I think there's just more problems than that. Like, that's not the only problem. Their forward line has just looked, absolutely dysfunctional. And after that game, I think it was against, who they even play last week? I don't remember, but I remember telling myself, I don't think I can be backing in Freo again. They obviously had that win against Gold Coast, but that really didn't say much at all. I think Gold Coast were just even worse that day. But yeah, Brisbane Lions looking like they are, setting themselves up to secure a top 4 spot. And I think we'll find, as they have done probably the last, I reckon, 3 out of the last 4 seasons, they're probably going to lock themselves another top 5 spot or top 4 spot yet again. But moving on from that game, because there really wasn't much to talk about. I mean, this next game here, one of the best of the season. And I watched this game as well, and I cannot believe it. I actually got a correct tip in this game here. I only ended up with 6 out of 9 for the round, but GWS versus the Sydney Swans at the SCG, what a game this was. I mean, for the most of the game, the Giants always seem to be, 2 steps behind. In fact, that might actually even be correct. If I look here, I do think, off memory, the Giants were ahead for the first half. Sydney definitely won that third quarter there and looked to be cruising on their way home. But again, they just fell short at the very, very last hurdle. Obviously not last week. They didn't fall short whatsoever. They got absolutely smashed. But it was very similar to that Port Adelaide Sydney Swans games from a few weeks ago. This game, a bit different. It was a much more offensive game. Super, super high scoring. But Toby Green, 4 goals. I think he kicked 2 in the last quarter and was key to, getting the Giants back in this game and winning it. There was something about the Giants, and it's the reason why I tipped them. Not to say Sydney played bad by any means, but I think the Giants have seriously deserved more credit for what they've been able to do this year. I don't think they've been bad whatsoever. They had a close game against the Giants, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think they actually played pretty good against Brisbane last week, though they still lost by 20 or so points. Their intentions were all in the right places, and they were playing in a very, very good way. And Adam Kinsley, I think, he's gone under the radar a bit this year for the Giants. What are they now? I think they're 3 wins. So they're just sitting outside the top 8 by, a win or so. They're far off a bottom 4 side. I mean, it's quite impressive when you really think about the amount of players and, talent that is lost from that club, just over the last 2 or 3 years. It's quite amazing, to be honest. So I think they're definitely doing better than we all expected. But yeah, I think we definitely need to give credit to the Giants, because that was a that was a huge win, and that was something that I think the Giants are going to take with them for the rest of the season, to really just say and show what they can do and what they are capable of, because Sydney, are certainly no easy beats at the SCG as well. So very impressive there from the Giants. Now, as for the rest of the Saturday games, well, there's really not much to talk about. This was one of the worst Saturday nights of football I think we've ever seen. The afternoon game, the early afternoon game, the Western Bulldogs taking on Hawthorn. I mean, there really wasn't much to take out of that game. Hawthorn, they sort of stayed up with the pace of the Bulldogs for the first few quarters, and then, as we probably mostly expected from a young side and a redeveloping side like Hawthorn, the Western Bulldogs got it done. But the real stinkers here are these next 2 games. Melbourne versus North Melbourne. That was a 90-point blowout. I mean, North Melbourne, after the start they had at the start of the season, I thought they were going to be a little bit more competitive for the rest of this season. Not to say they were going to win games, but a 90-point loss, that really hurts for North Melbourne. And you thought, maybe we wouldn't see that happen as much this year, but, round 7, it's not looking good for North Melbourne. Hopefully, Alistair Clarkson has some tricks up his sleeve for North, because, a few more of these losses, and North are really back to where they were the last few years. And, again, they're in that contention for the wooden spoon. And, in this next game here, very similarly, the West Coast Eagles, you sort of got to feel a little bit bad for the West Coast Eagles, because they had been so unlucky these last 2 seasons with injuries, COVID stuff. I mean, this year they've avoided the COVID stuff, but they've just lost half their team. They're playing with, I reckon there's 5 or 6 players from the Waffle. They've lost that many Waffle players that they've had to have previously retired Eagles players go back into the Waffle, and then the Waffle's losing players. They can't get a full team there. So it's just absolutely chaos for the West Coast Eagles. And I think, I don't know if they've had any injuries out of this Carlton game. But yeah, it was a week for the tall forwards. Charlie Kerner obviously kicking 9 goals. Impressive, but it's got to be said, it's against a West Coast side that is severely undermanned and underarmed. So yeah, what do you take from that? Carlton got a much needed win, I guess you could say, because, and this was probably the only sort of win that would satisfy the Carlton fans after that Adelaide loss and the St Kilda loss last week. So I guess Carlton did what they needed to do. And then, on to the Sunday games. Well, I had a feeling that the Essendon were going to get up there. They didn't. This was actually not a bad game. You never really thought Essendon were going to win this, but super high scoring. And Geelong, again, another key forward performance from Tom Hawkins. I think he kicked 7 or 8, something like that. I think Jeremy Cameron probably kicked 3 or 4. I think the real story out of this Sunday was the Gold Coast Suns beating Richmond. Really shouldn't have been a surprise the most, and I don't know why I tipped Richmond. I mean, they've done nothing this year, so there's really no reason to suggest. You just thought, surely, a home game at the Marvel Stadium, but even that, I mean, they just play horribly at Marvel Stadium. So, Gold Coast Suns, they got a much-needed win. You would have hated to have seen them lose this from a Gold Coast standpoint, just looking at where they are in their development and where Richmond are on the way down. This was just a win they needed to get. They got it, so good on the Gold Coast Suns. But I think we know where the real entertainment was on the Sunday night here. And as most of the Pies games do, they never fail to, live up to the spectacle of a close game. It was certainly a close one. Definitely wasn't close to being game of the round. I think that has to go to the Sydney Giants game. But it was a close one, and it came down to the very last minute. credit to the Crows because they had control for 3/4 of that game and they should have kicked us out of it. And if it wasn't for the umps, I reckon this game could have gone a bit differently. It's hard to really just look at how the game could have gone because this is what we got. But there were some seriously poor decisions from the umpires in this game. Yeah, I mean, it's an understatement to say this game had some seriously criminal umpire decisions. I mean, just a few in the last quarter. The Ash Johnson high in the center square should have been a high free kick any day of the week. The Adelaide defender's arm literally went over his head, around his shoulders, and the umpires didn't bat an eye. And then the other one with Nathan Murphy going back with the ball, gets sandwiched by 2 Adelaide players, gets a high across the face, clearly, right? There's no denying that. I just don't know what the umpires were thinking. It's just, it is seriously ridiculous. I mean, Nathan Murphy, again, another concussion, or it looked like he may have been potentially hit his head on the ground. I don't know if he actually got a concussion. I think he might have passed a concussion test, but he was put in that position again, and the umpires didn't give him anything for it. Went off as well. I think he broke his nose because the Adelaide defender's arm just sort of slapped him, across the face, hits his nose, he's bleeding. So just crazy. The umps were just terrible in that game. And even if you're a fan or a follower of Has the Umpire Stuffed Up on Twitter, he even came out and said, this is one of the worst umpired games he has seen all year or in, the last few years. So yeah, but again, the Pies prevail as we do. And it's crazy. It's sort of getting to the point where it's not surprising anymore. The last 5 minutes, we just kept pressing. Johnny Noble gets that amazing running in and goal from 50. And then the last play to set up Sil Sidebottom to get the crucial point that won us the game. It was just, something that we've seen so many times from the Pies this year or last year, really, over the last 18 months. But yeah, what a round it was, round 7. Some good games in there, some stinkers as well, but definitely some upsetting results like the Giants game, the Port Adelaide one as well. But yeah, guys, that is it for the video. I thought I'd go ahead and, just give my thoughts brief. I can already see I've gone over my 10-minute mark that I want to go to. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. And yeah, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and bye-bye.